It's February 2025 and I'm all alone in the desert. Just 700 metres from the all-inclusive resorts of Maspalomas, Meloneras and Playa del Ingles. Located at the very southern tip of Gran Canaria, home to the 1890-built Faro de Maspalomas, is the main tourist resort of the island, stretching from Bahia Feliz in the east to Meloneras in the west. Meloneras is the most recent part of a wider Maspalomas resort to be developed, starting in the late 1990s and home to some of the largest of the resort hotel complexes, combined with high-end spas and casinos, as well as the Playa de Meloneras. The EU blue-flagged Playa de Meloneras is a 570-metre long and, at low tide, 75-metre wide blonde sand beach that is separated from the rest of Maspalomas by the low cliffs. Linking Meloneras back to the rest of Maspalomas is the 2-kilometre-long Paseo de las Meloneras that runs along the edge of the cliff from the beach to the lighthouse at Maspalomas. Along the way is the small archaeological site of Punta Mujeres, where there are the remnants of a small domestic structure that was built sometime between the 7th and 9th centuries by the Guanche, the indigenous population of the Canary Islands, prior to the arrival of the Spanish at the start of the 15th century. Beyond the archaeological remains, and you reach the southern part of Maspalomas and the Lighthouse. The resort town that expanded to become modern-day Maspalomas has grown from a tiny hamlet that today is the area of San Fernando de Maspalomas, located at the very north of the resort. There is debate as to where the name comes from, with sources pointing to it potentially being an evolution from a Guanche word meaning what soaks and spoils the forage. A different explanation has it coming from the name of the Mallorcan settler and soldier Rodrigo Mas de Palomar, or possibly from Francisco Palomar, a Genoese merchant who purchased Guanche slaves in Tenerife and settled in the area. First proposed in June 1861, it took until 1884 for the decision to build the Faro de Maspalomas to be taken, with building work starting shortly afterwards, being completed in 1889. The lighthouse was commissioned at the start of the following year, and its first flash of light took place on the night of the 1st of February 1890. Today, that lamp is visible from 19 nautical miles away, having been automated in 1976. The lighthouse is the tallest masonry lighthouse in the Canaries at 56 metres high, and was the tallest overall until the completion of the 59-metre tall concrete-built Faro de Morojable on Fuerteventura just over 100 years later in 1991. The rooms at the base of the lighthouse have been adapted into a small ethnographic museum. The lighthouse is the southernmost lighthouse in the Canary Islands and also marks the southernmost point of the island of Gran Canaria. From here, as you head east, you enter the unique habitat of the Dunas de Maspalomas, where the wide sandy beaches of Maspalomas and Playa de Ingles turn into steep sand dunes. Formed over thousands of years, the dunes are historically important as they've been a landmark for sailors for centuries. The dunes are a halophilic environment, ideal for plants and animals that can live with a large amount of salt present. On the island side of the dunes, there are wetlands which are home to most of the flora and birds that visit the area, particularly around the Charca de Maspalomas, the oasis-like lake that sits close to the hotels and bars of the resort. This is also home to the critically endangered Gran Canarian giant lizard, one of the largest lizards that can grow up to 80 centimetres and which are only found on the island. Since 1987, a nature reserve of around 404 hectares has been in place, covering the whole of the dunes and wetland complex, with clearly marked paths through the sites designed to keep tourists away from the areas most susceptible to damage. Not that it always appears to work, given the number of footprints in areas far beyond the marker posts. Despite the number of tourists in the resorts surrounding the dunes, once you go more than a few metres beyond the beach, you suddenly find yourself alone, with the sound of the waves crashing on the beach muted by the mounds of sound that now stand between you and the Atlantic. There are 3 main walking routes set out by the nature reserve to help you explore the environment: the Camino Rojo, the Camino Verde, and the Camino Azul, or red, green and blue paths, all very clearly signposted, quite literally in some places. All three routes converge on the Mirador de las Dunas, around 2.5 kilometres from the lighthouse. I took the Camino Azul, which runs from the end of the oasis through the southern edge of the wetland areas, directly behind the most imposing of the dunes in this area. On this route, you get to see the dunes up close, as well as their spectacular dune grasses that are creeping out from the wetlands. The green route runs through the middle of a wetlands area, whilst the red route runs along the rear of the reserve close to yet more resorts and hotels, as well as crossing paths with the routes taken by the camel safaris. In places, the sand has taken on some of the moisture from the wetlands and, with thousands of feet walking over it, solidified into an almost concrete-like path that's easy underfoot to walk on. In other places, it's still just loose sand that gives you a pretty good workout as you climb up and over a dune that you're permitted to walk over. As you approach the Mirador de las Dunas, the dunes get larger, more pronounced, and much more resembling something from the Ladybird book of desert landscapes, with the steep rears of the dunes and the shallower slope of the dune faces easily distinguishable, whilst the palm trees of the viewpoint acting like an oasis marker for a fully stocked cafe bar. If you don't fancy hiking through the dunes, then you could just head directly to the Mirador right behind a hotel complex, from where you can look out over an alien-like landscape. Next time, I continue my exploration of Gran Canaria by taking a series of journeys into the barrancos formed by the volcano that built the island, as well as heading into the volcano's caldera itself. And explore a mini-continent as I circumnavigate the whole island in a day.